Welcome to Autogefühl. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you put a Toyota Yaris on steroids? Well, I have. I'm Brian, and this is the brand new Toyota Yaris GRMN. It's been an unbelievable 17 years since Toyota last had a car in the World Rally Championship. All of that changed in 2017 when they entered the Yaris WRC. That's a big statement about getting back into that type of motorsports for Toyota. And it was so successfully received that they decided what they wanted to do was to produce a road legal version of the same car. Well, we all know and love the Yaris. It's a very, very popular small car. But is it really going to be suitable for transporting into a pocket rocket? Well, we're going to take a closer look and find out. The first thing to notice about the new Toyota Yaris is, of course, the name, the GRMN. Now, that's not the easiest name to slip off the tongue, but there is a reason behind it. The GR stands for Gazoo Racing, and anyone who's in Japan will be more than a little bit familiar with that brand. Basically, it's Toyota's racing arm. Think AMG or Seat Cupra or Fiat Abarth. The idea is that it's a separate brand that really looks at how to make performance versions of their standard cars. Now, as I say, if you're in Japan, you will be more than familiar with this concept, but outside, it's pretty much unknown. And that's why we're starting off with this as the first model. And I think it was a very good first model to pick. The MN, in case you're wondering, stands for Meister of Nordschleife. Well, that's even more of a mouthful. The reason is that there's a very close and long association between Toyota and the Nordschleife at the Nürburgring in Germany. Very, very much loved amongst the Japanese developers. And when they wanted to produce this car, that is where they decided they wanted to race tune it and get its performance absolutely perfect. Needless to say, they're a little bit proud of the job that they did, and hence the name. So, I know that's all a bit confusing. What it actually amounts to is that all future sports editions that we will be seeing across Europe will start with GR, and the last two initials will obviously be something significant about that particular car's development. That's all a lot of words. All you really need to know is that this is the sporty version of the Yaris. Now, it's a limited production run. There are only ever going to be 400 of these cars. That, according to Toyota, is really the potential market for this vehicle at the moment. But if it sells well and gets good feedback, there clearly will be a lot more to follow. So, first thing to talk about is styling. Well, they have kept the integrity of the car really quite consistent with what you'd expect. You could be forgiven for looking at this and not paying too much attention and just thinking, yeah, sure, it's a Yaris. I like that for what it's worth. I don't think that you should be throwing the baby out with the bathwater when you do these sporty redesigns. That said, obviously, we have much more aggressive styling because they're going to want you to know it is a sports car. And a lot of that is belying the huge amounts of change that have taken place with the technology underneath. At 3 meters 94 or 12'9" in length, it's not exactly the world's biggest car, but it is a Yaris. The only significant detail you need to know about this model is that you can only get it in a 3-door version. Clearly that's going to have an impact on your ability to fit backseat passengers in there. I don't really know if that's going to be your first concern if you're buying this car. Let's take a closer look at the styling detail. Well, we have the logo here just above the wheel, so we know what we're driving. And look at these. These are 17-inch custom wheels with, of course, significantly uprated discs underneath. And I have to tell you, from having driven it, the brakes work beautifully with both the size and the weight of the car. They really give you exactly what you want. Coming through the side, you can see we have these decals here. Now, I can tell you that if you're not a huge fan of them, and I don't know if I'm completely convinced, you can order the car at no extra cost without these decals, and they're on the back, on the bonnet and on the side. So if you want your car to look a little bit more discreet, that is an option you can go for. Coming through to the back or business end of the car, this is really where they want to make a statement that you won't be forgetting while you're eating its dust. Look at this spoiler. Now, I don't think that's too much at all. It does blend in nicely with the car. It really makes the profile look good. I think it's enough and not too much, and I like that. Coming slightly further down, well, I don't think that's going to win any design awards for being stunning or original, but you know what? It does the job. It lets you know the car's sporty. It doesn't really state too much. What do you think? Okay, well, first impressions right off the bat are that not a huge amount has changed in here. And I can understand why. You know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. The Yaris interior is nice and clean and straightforward, and that's been kept here. Obviously, there are some styling touches which are different, but in terms of what you get for layout, it looks very familiar indeed. Now, this car has come in for quite a lot of criticism about its seats, which I think is really unfair, and I'll tell you why. If you notice, we're going to take a look in a little bit more detail later on, but these are big seats. They're very big seats for a small car, and as anyone who's ever driven a performance car will tell you, the seats are everything in terms of whether or not it can deliver the experience that you want. This is one of the hardest jobs to get right in these cars, because you have to provide a seat that will be comfortable enough that you can use the car for everyday use, but sporty and supportive enough that you can really get the most out of the performance that the car has to offer. This is where this seat's controversial. Some people feel it would have been better to have gone with a more basic seat to give the car a more regular, straightforward feel. I don't agree with that. I think that these seats are very well designed. They have been custom made for this car, and they do a fantastic job of holding you in place while you're getting the best out of the performance. And that's going to be my priority for a car like this. Yes, I'm not going to need it every day when I'm going down to the shops, but when I really want to experience what the car can offer and throw it into a corner, I really need to make sure that I'm being held right where I want to be. And I think these seats do a really good job of that. Now, in terms of comfort, they're not bad at all. I am not currently the slimmest person you could ever meet, and I still feel very comfortable in this seat. We've spent a good few hours driving around today, and I have to tell you, the seat really did feel comfortable. Plenty of support, nice amount of flexibility. My only slight niggle would be the height adjustment. The seat's currently as low as it will go. We have on the side a height adjustment for the seat and obviously the rake adjustment for the back. And this feels very much to me as if it's been optimized for your standard everyday road driving experience. You just feel a little bit high up for that performance feeling. So I would have liked a little bit of a lower drop on the seat, maybe as an option in order to just enhance that feeling when you're driving it. But you're going to spend most of your time driving the car from A to B, so actually it's fine. In terms of the layout of everything, we have a pretty standard, straightforward, hard plastic top up here. There's nothing to either get massively excited about or massively let down by. I really like the simplicity of the controls, and I really like the way that it doesn't interfere in any way with my visual experience of driving the car. Let's take a closer look at some of the controls. Regular viewers will know that I'm a bit of a fan of Toyota, and the reason is that I feel that you get only what you paid for and nothing extra. It doesn't ever give you the impression that it's trying to pretend to be something other than what it is. Okay, so this isn't the cheapest Toyota ever, 32,000 euro. It does cost a little bit more than your standard Yaris. So they have wanted you to have some features which just let you know there's a little bit extra. Look at the display. You can see the styling that we have here. is very specific to this car. It's obviously all geared around a traditional performance layout. So we've got really nice rev counter, and the speedometer just really says to us, are you going quite as fast as you'd like? It's nice. The central digital display is basic, but it does give you all the information you need, and it's very easy and straightforward to use. I don't think there's a huge amount of point telling you a great deal about the infotainment system. If that's important to you, this probably isn't going to be the car that you're purchasing. It's basic, it does the job. That's about all that I have to say about that. But look down here. Oh, I wish all of the manufacturers could get the hang of doing this in such a straightforward manner. We are experiencing a very hot day today, and we have had to work with the AC on and off. It's so straightforward. The layout is so easy to navigate. I don't need to look at it. It just has what I need right there, and that's it. Slightly lower down, standard USB charge point and a 12-volt charge point. Standard cup holders down here, little storage area. Yes, it does all feel very, very plasticky. But again, you have to recognize the car on which this is based. The Yaris is a cheap entry-level car, and although this is not a cheap entry-level car, it still has the same DNA. So come on, this car's all about the drive. You really don't want to get too worried about the interior. For me, it's all about the seat and the driving position, and those are both good. Beyond that, we have this leather steering wheel. It's okay. I'd have liked something that felt a little bit more intentional. This is not the first time that we've seen this steering wheel. It's fine, and at regular speeds and around town, it's great. But when you really want to get the feeling of driving this car, I don't know, I think they could have done something a little better, but maybe that's just my personal taste. Further down again, we have our 6-speed manual gearbox. That's a nice, stylish finish. It's basic, straightforward, but it really looks good. And lots of car designers don't manage to get that bit right, so I'm really impressed by that. Gearbox itself is an absolute joy to use, but more on that later. Well, we've got plenty of space up front, plenty of nooks, as you would expect from Toyota, in which we can store things, change pens. But really, if you're driving this car the way it's supposed to be driven, you're probably not going to want anything loose rattling around. A quick word about practicality now. So, I am 1.78 meters in height, or 5 feet and 10. I do, however, have a long torso, but look at this. The seat is down as low as it goes, but I have inches spare at the top. So even a tall person is going to manage to be actually very comfortable in this car, as you'd expect from a Yaris. In terms of the actual driving room, well, I have plenty, but I do have very short legs, which means I have to have the chair really far forwards. And getting in and out of the car, which I'll show you in just a second, isn't the easiest maneuver in the world, but honestly, that just kind of tells me I need to lose a little weight, and that probably isn't a bad thing. So, let me show you what I mean. Now that is a bit of a performance. Firstly, because I have the seat so far forwards, and secondly, because of these big bolsters on the sides of the chair. But really, I think that's a price worth paying if you want to have the driving experience. So we can only get this car as a 3-door, and that means it's always going to be fun trying to figure out whether or not we can get into the back. Let's take a look. Well, we know that these are pretty big seats, so you're going to want to put them all the way forwards, and obviously they're not going to fold that flat to allow you to gain access. Once you've done that, however, it certainly isn't impossible to get in. Now, the seat's pushed all the way forward, so clearly the legroom isn't really demonstrative. Let me see if I can just pull the seat back and you can get a better sense. Well, not bad. There's certainly more legroom back here than I was expecting. The bit that really makes me laugh about the back is that we have these child anchor points for children's car seats built in. And I'm just not completely convinced that anyone who actually has children and has experience of putting them in the back of a car would ever choose to do it in this car. But still, you can if you want to. And it's not nearly as small and cramped back here as I was honestly expecting. The same dark styling continues through the back, the same hard plastic. There really isn't any particular effort that's gone on back here to make it feel like a great experience for you, but come on, you're really not going to buy this car in order to put 4 people in it on a very regular basis. And it's fine for every now and then when you want to use it. And we have 60/40 fold down on the seats. So if you want a larger storage area, which you're definitely going to want when you see how little room there is in the boot, at least you can have that, and you can access the rear from within the car. And that's nice too. However, there are no usable windows back here, so expect to be pretty hot on a hot day. Again, as I said, I think if you're buying this car, it's for 2 people, not for 4. If you're like me and you really don't want to mess around with your seat adjustment every single time somebody has to come in and come out of your car, then you're probably going to end up doing this. So let's find out how practical that actually is. Well, it's not impossible, but if you have to transport an elderly relative around, I think you're going to want to do it in a different car. Really don't know how bothered you're going to be about the boot storage in this car, but let's take a look anyway. 286 litres of load space back here. That can't be right. You might think looking at that, well, we have this very nice drop down parcel shelf that allows us 2 layers of storage. So really, I think for this car, for this size, that's more than adequate. Let's take a look and see what's powering this beast. Okay, so Toyota say that this is a brand new engine for this car, but Thomas mentioned to me earlier that he thought maybe this had come from a Lotus Elise. So if you know, I'd be really excited to find out. In terms of its suitability for this car, it's absolutely fantastic. If Jonas can show you just on top of the engine here, we have a limited edition badge. I think there might be some numbering on here somewhere as well. There are only 400 of these cars being made. Now, this is supercharged instead of being turbocharged, and what that means is the air coming into the cylinders has been compressed. And they're very proud of that. They say that it's the only car of its type that currently uses that technology. Well, I can't speak too much to that point, but what I can tell you is it delivers its power beautifully. This is a 1.8 litre engine, 4 cylinders, you can see right here, and it produces 212 horsepower. I think for this car, for this size, that's absolutely perfect. That power is delivered really, really nicely to the wheels, and the slip differential really allows us to make sure that we're maximizing how it's applied to the road. It's really superbly put together. As you can see in this bay, it uses every square inch of space that's available. I really don't think I'd like to try doing any work on this car whatsoever. So hopefully, if you have the kind of cash required to buy one, you also have the kind of cash required to do the maintenance. Toyota won't give me a figure on that, but I'm thinking it might be a touch more expensive than a standard Yaris. Okay, so Jonas and I have been talking. I think what we really need is somebody with a little bit more experience to show us really what this car's capable of. I think somebody with 24 World Championship Rally medals is really going to be the right way to go. So we are very lucky to have been joined by Isolde Holderied, who I'm pretty certain is going to be able to push this car really as far as it's going to be able to go. So before we get started, this is a standard Yaris. We are going to take this car out for a drive, and we're going to find out how a standard Yaris can perform when it's pushed by somebody who really knows what they're doing. Take us away. So we are actually quite close to Jonas's hometown at the moment. We are just outside of Cologne, and we have an airstrip here, which is really going to allow us to push these cars as hard as we want to. And to start with, we've got a little bit of cone action here, so we can see how the standard Yaris behaves out and about round the track.
You see the rolling, it's all standard, but normally in the road outside, you're not going on a slalom on the normal road.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not, yeah.
Well, I think what's pleasing is that even though this is just the standard car, you still do have quite a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can really shove it around the slalom. Gotta say, I'm wondering if Jonas is still in one piece in the back. I think we're gonna find out shortly. So, how would you describe the characteristics of the way that this car handles?
You always have to think, if you go out of the road, the handling must be easy for a normal road driver. And all this you will find in the Toyota Yaris here. And also the traction control and the safety control is working perfectly. And that's the main thing. If you go, you have to react on a normal road, and you have to do it like in the slalom. The car is easy to handle. That's important, that if something bad happens, you can react on it.
I think part of the reason the Yaris has proved so popular is that because it's so light, you have so much flexibility in terms of how it responds to the road conditions.
Yeah, it's quite agile, and for people, they like cars like this, young people, and also for everybody, I will say, it's perfect car. Or if you also, as a second car, or depends what you need, you all have in here.
Great. Well, let's give it another go. Obviously, if you're wondering about my condition, woo! We don't have the air conditioning switched off ever when we're testing cars because we don't want to mess with the sound. That's great.
And you feel the safety is quite good here in the car, and it's also quite handlebar. If maybe you should go on the steering.
It does. It actually does feel remarkably solid on the road. I'm very impressed.
And you feel also that the traction control is working. You feel it?
Yes, yes. It's always nice to know that you've got brand new tyres on your car as well. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Now, we'd like for you to show us exactly what we can do with a slightly sportier version. Okay, Isolde. So, now we've got 0.3 more of a litre and over 100 horsepower extra. So I think that might change the way this handles a little bit.
Of course, it will be different because this car was tested on the Nürburgring. So you can use it as a standard car on a normal road, but it's also possible to go on a racetrack.
She's smiling at me in a way that I can only describe as being slightly disturbing. So I think I know what we're in for. Let's find out. Woo!
You see, the car is not so much rolling like the standard car, but it's normal because it's tested on the Nürburgring. Of course, you need something different on the suspension and on the shock absorbers. Also, the sound is different. And you have quite more speed. And you have to work on the steering.
Well, I think that really does solve the question as to whether there is a difference between a standard Yaris and this car. Really, really impressed with the way that that was handling. Very nice, completely controlled, completely balanced. It really felt like, if anything, there was lots more room available. How about showing us some straight line speed? Now, one of the things that I've read about this car is that it's very nicely balanced between the gears.
It's incredibly done, this balance of the car. And even if you're on the co-driver's seat, I think you can feel it, how much fun the GRMN has on it.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. As I
want to do another loop, is it okay?
Yeah, let's do it, let's do it.
now on the throttle, you can feel also the speed.
Yeah, that acceleration's great.
Incredible, huh? How stable is the car?
Oh, that's just fantastic. The poise is just superb, and the power really nicely delivered as well. Well, I have to say, thank you so much. It really has been a treat being able to have this experience.
And I like it always to drive cars, and I have so much fun with the GRMN. It's incredible.
So we've managed to recover Jonas from the back seat of the car. We've even managed to put a little bit of cold air in here. So it's time for us to take it out and see how it drives. Well, we've already had the opportunity to see how it drives when somebody who really knows what they're doing is taking it out. And to start with, because we have a good bit of time on the open tarmac, we're just going to drive the car very civilly to see how it handles. When this car was designed, the intention was that it would drive around the Nürburgring as comfortably and as politely as it would drive excitingly and with aggression on the Nürburgring. So obviously you're going to notice a couple of things that are very particular about this car as opposed to a regular Yaris in terms of its standard drive experience. And that's a lot to do, oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Even just gently and politely, when you drive this car, it feels really nice. It's ready to deliver. The ratio of gears is absolutely superb. It really feels like I have a good bit of go, even in lower revs, even in higher gears. And that's something really nice that small cars deliver well, because obviously you have such a great weight factor in terms of their performance. I don't know, Jonas, are you managing to feel a little bit more yourself now? Have you recovered a little bit?
Yeah, let's go again.
He's looking a little bit more like the Jonas that we know and love. Okay, so I wanted to get right up to the end of this strip so we could see what space we have to play with here. This is a very, very nice place to come and test a car. Now, this car that we're driving today has Belgian plates on it, but that shouldn't stop us from being able to take it out and see how it handles around town. But for now, we're on an airstrip, and there's only really one thing that you need to do on an airstrip. Let's find out how the acceleration works. Ooh. That's just an absolutely lovely delivery of power. There really was no point at which that engine felt lacking at all. It gave you exactly what you wanted. And the sound, I don't know how well the microphone's going to pick that up. Obviously, we're going to point the microphone in the back of the exhaust a little later on. Ah, the tautness of that suspension is just lovely. It sounds good. It feels good. Do you think they'll let us take one home? So, straight line speed, superb. But then I guess we always knew it was going to be. But the handling and the delivery of the power is superb. The brakes are nice and taut. I guess I'm not massively in love with the feeling of the steering wheel. Fans of Toyota will know this from other cars that it also features on. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't really, to my way of thinking, quite equip you in the way that all the power and the performance suggests that it might. But this car is a joy to drive, and if you're lucky enough to get to have a go, I couldn't recommend it enough. Coming in at just over 1,100 kilos in weight, the power to weight ratio that this car delivers is fantastic. Now, they haven't wasted any time at all with a quick launch button or fancy race modes, and why would they want to? You have a 6-speed manual gearbox in this car to twin up with that 1.8 litre petrol. And believe me, once you've tried it yourself, you won't miss any of that stuff. So we always knew that this car was going to handle really nicely on the track. But even if you buy it specifically for that purpose, you're still going to find yourself wanting to take it out on the regular street. So how's it going to handle that? Well, I have to say this is one of my favorite classes of car, and the reason for that is you can have so much fun in a small car. You really can. One of my most favorite cars ever for pure fun is the Seat Ibiza Cupra, and the reason for that is it's a lot of fun at a reasonable price point. Now this car is significantly more powerful and more sporty than that. That is designed as a car that you could realistically buy for yourself and then enjoy owning. This one I think is a little bit more special, but it still has to function when it's out and about around town. So the ride is a little bit stiffer than the standard Yaris, but really not much to notice. Clearly those special wheels and those thin tyres do make the ride a lot more abrupt, but what would you expect? Certainly nothing to get upset about, and as long as you're not planning on taking it off-road, there's more than enough comfort and room in the suspension to handle a nice long drive. Now, you may have noticed when we did that driving with Isolde that there was a lot of throwing around, and we have specially designed seats in here. These are not standard. Those come in very, very handy on the track. They're a little bit obtrusive for a normal drive, but this car is all about performance, and if you don't want to take the full advantage that that offers, probably you should be looking at a different car. In terms of the drive height, there is a little bit of a compromise. What I mean by that is that I have the seat in its lowest possible position, but I'm still quite high up in the car. Now for day-to-day use, which is exactly what we're doing with it right now, that's perfect. It feels in all respects exactly like a standard Yaris would. I have a good clear view in front of me and really good round all visibility. That, however, is a bit of a letdown when you get on the track. I think I would have liked it a little bit if they could have allowed for an extra lowering for track conditions, just to really get you at the center of gravity for this car. Well, the gearbox is polite and balanced, even cruising around at regular speeds. Gear change is just lovely. They've really done a superb job of pairing up the engine with the gearbox here, so the power's delivered exactly where you want it, exactly when you want it. So sure, it handles fine around town, but where this car really comes into its own is the open road, particularly nice, windy country roads. There's so much power to be delivered and so much handling to be enjoyed. The limited slip differential really makes sure that you have it exactly where and when you want it. When you're coming up into a corner, you can sometimes forget that you're not just driving a regular Yaris, except for the vibration, obviously, but the moment you start to hit that bend, there's no roll, the car is perfectly poised, and the more you pour on the power, the more the car wants you to. It's precise, it's exactly as you would hope that it would be. They really have done a superb job of realizing the potential of this car, not least because, as they said, they wanted it to drive as nicely around the Nürburgring as on the Nürburgring. Well, this is exactly the kind of place that I would like to take this car. We've got long sweeping bends, and you really can feel the appreciation of all of that engineering. They did an absolutely fantastic job of the tuning of this car. You're going to have just as much fun driving it around these country roads as you are on the racetrack, and that is no small achievement. So what do we think about this? The first Toyota GR to be seen outside of Japan. Well, at €31,000 asking price, it certainly isn't cheap to the market. After all, it'll give you 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 6.3 seconds, but you can get a Polo GTI that will do it in 6.7 seconds, and that's going to come in at €7,000 less. But I don't think that's really a fair comparison. I think it is fair to say that sometimes the sum of a vehicle's parts add up to an awful lot more than their individual components. What I feel and experience when I drive this car are the hours and hours and hours they put in at the Nürburgring tuning it. It is superb to see how well the individual components work together. The handling is crisp and taut, the power is just right at all of the stages of acceleration, and it's just a pleasure to drive. The brakes are very effective and work very well indeed. You would be able to take this car and enjoy it just as much driving around small roads as you would at the racetrack. And I think that's a huge achievement. Now, is that worth 32,000 euro? Well, they're only actually making 400 units of this particular car, and I think realistically there may only be about 2 left to buy if you want one. So I really don't think the point here was to show the mass market what a sports version could be like. I think it was just lighting the touch paper and saying, hey, we have a new direction that we want to move in, and we have some new products that we're excited to show you. And I have to say, if this is in any way demonstrative of what's coming, there are some good things on the horizon. If we can just get down the asking price a little bit and make it just a touch more affordable, I think we have some very, very exciting driving ahead. Well, that's about all from us here in Cologne. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope we'll see you all again soon.